You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans! Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk. And before I get into football, I have to start with some big baseball news. Specifically, the Braves locking up Charlie Morton for 1 year at $15 million. So the hero of the Rays postseason from 2019 and last year was allowed to go to the Braves because Stu Sternberg was too cheap to bring him back. That is what happened here. As you may know, my best friend Mark is a Rays fan. And he told me something once about the Rays. He told me that the Rays never re-sign their own players. Well, truer words have never been spoken, apparently. How on God's earth do you let Morton get away? Forget what he did in Game 3 of the World Series. He laid an egg. You know what? That's the only bad postseason start that he's had for you. This guy's usually money in the postseason. Killed the Yankees in Game 7 of the 17 ALCS. Killed the Dodgers in that World Series. Hell, 2013. His first ever postseason start. He pitched well against the Cardinals. Granted, he got the loss, but he went 5 2/3, only gave up 3 hits. Only gave up 2 runs. He made 1 bad pitch. Matt Holliday with the big home run. That's it. This is criminal. If there were more than 17 Rays fans, they'd be screaming bloody murder over this. You can't let Morton get away. There is no good reason to not bring Charlie Morton back. You want to tell me that he didn't have a good regular season, he got hurt, only made 9 starts, went 2-2 with a 4.74 ERA? I get that. Farce of a season, though. And he more than made up for it in the playoffs. This is inexcusable for the Rays. Stu Sternberg is, without question, the most overrated owner in all of sports. The guy just doesn't understand what it takes to run a successful baseball team. Baseball can't work in Florida. There's too much competition in the summer. Floridians don't go to the game, so move the team. Just move them to Montreal. Move them to Vegas. Move them to Nashville. I don't care. Get them out of Florida. Instead, you're content to just let the chips fall where they may. You won't put any money into the team. You've never put any money into the team. You are a joke. You are an embarrassment to the sport. Dig a little deep and bring Morton back. And here's the kicker to the whole thing. The Rays had a $15 million option on Charlie Morton for this coming season that they declined. They thought they could get him for less. They were being cheap. Because of course they were. That is what the Rays do. The only way they can keep guys is if they sign these below market value extensions. Brandon Lau, Tyler Glasnow, Austin Meadows, I got news for you. If you want to stay with the Rays long term, be prepared to take a major discount or else you're being traded. I am sick and tired of hearing people compliment the Rays. They are not a good organization. They've never been a good organization. They compete with a shoestring budget. That's all well and good. Alright, that's perfectly fine. But why do they need a shoestring budget? You have an owner that's worth $800 million. He's a big Wall Street guy. He has money. He just chooses not to spend it. And to add to all that, you've got rumors saying that the Rays are open to the idea of trading Blake Snell, according to Mark Feinsand of MLB.com. And Randy Arozarena is under investigation over an alleged domestic incident in Mexico. The Arozarena thing, we've got to let the process play out. It would be irresponsible for me to comment on it definitively, but it's not a good look for Arozarena, and it's not a good look for the Rays. But think about the Snell thing. The Rays are okay with gutting their rotation. It would be one thing if they were complete garbage last year. They won the freaking pennant! If it wasn't for the asinine decision to pull Snell, the Rays probably get to a Game 7, and God only knows what happens there. Furthermore, in the last real season, 2019, they made the playoffs. They're not a bad baseball team. But now with letting Morton go, and maybe trading Snell, forget about it. I don't care what you get for Snell. There's no question that you would get 2 or 3 fantastic prospects for Snell. Every team in baseball should be in on him, assuming he's really available. But I can promise you those 2 or 3 top prospects won't immediately be enough to make up for the loss of Snell. Here's a crazy idea. Keep him around. If teams ask about Snell, hang up. Typical Rays. Looking to trade any talent they have. Oh, but Jacob, they can develop new talent. Yeah, and then they'll be traded. The cycle keeps going. The Rays are a joke. They've been a joke for years. The owner's inept. Sell the team. Move the team. It can't work in Florida. It can't work with Sternberg. I mean, the Braves are happy. They got a really good starter out of this. Think about this rotation. Max Fried, Ian Anderson, Charlie Morton, Drew Smyly, and Josh Tomlin. Okay, fine, the back of the rotation could be a little better, but you've got a really good top 3 there. With Charlie Morton, the Braves probably don't blow that 3-1. It's a fantastic move for the Braves. Morton's worth $15 million. The dichotomy is amazing. A good organization, Atlanta Braves. Bad organization, Tampa Bay Rays. If you have any dignity at all, you won't trade Blake Snell. I mean, I'd love him on the Yankees, don't get me wrong. But if I'm looking at it unbiasedly, there's no good reason for the Rays to trade him. The money argument doesn't mean anything to me. The Rays are a joke. They have been for years. Their owner's overrated. They're a sorry excuse for a Major League Baseball team. I don't care what they do in the standings. The way they run their team is terrible. They'll never win a World Series. Never. You gotta pay to keep top talent if you want to win a World Series. You can make the playoffs, you can go on magical runs, but you'll never win that last game of the season. It's just that simple. Speaking of starting pitching, according to Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic, the Reds are listening to offers on Sonny Gray. It's kind of interesting to see the Reds listen to offers on Gray. They have an owner that's very aggressive. Bear in mind, they traded for Trevor Bauer because they didn't want to finish last in the NL Central. Now they may lose Bauer and they're listening to offers on Gray. You're going to blow things up 18 months after pulling off a big trade for Bauer? That doesn't make sense to me. You made the playoffs for the first time since 2013. Before this season, you were a joke. You would never finish with more than 76 wins. Last year, you were over 500. There are rumors saying that the Reds want to cut payroll. Bob Castellini has put a lot of money into that team, but now he's looking to cut payroll. I'm not going to be as hard on him as I was on Sternberg. Realize the Reds have a lot of guaranteed money on their books. Joey Votto, Nick Castellanos, Mike Moustakas, Eugenio Suarez, Wade Miley, Raisel Iglesias, and Tucker Barnhart. That's over $90 million right there. And you take a look at the guys who need raises in arbitration. Archie Bradley, Luis Castillo, Michael Lorenzen, Jesse Winker. You're looking at $100 million right then and there. I don't mind you looking to cut payroll. I mean, you can put together a good rotation without Bauer and Gray. Luis Castillo can be your ace. I like Tyler Mahle a lot. You gotta think that Wade Miley's gonna bounce back. Maybe Michael Lorenzen slots into the rotation. Maybe you get a young, cost-controlled starter in a great trade. You sign a veteran innings eater. You've got something there. It's not a great rotation. In a perfect world, if you're the Reds, you'd bring back Bauer. And you wouldn't trade Gray. But I can understand the owner being a little hesitant to go crazy in terms of payroll. The Reds last year, without any sort of proration, were looking at a payroll of $134 million. That's a lot. The Reds are looking to be competitive without having a crazy payroll. That's fine. I don't mind that. At least they're keeping some of their talent. They're keeping Votto. They're keeping Castellanos. They're keeping Iglesias. They're not doing what the Rays do, so I don't mind it. I don't hate the idea of trading Sonny Gray. I would need to be bowled over to do it. I mean, you're probably looking at giving up a top 5 prospect in your system if you are going to go after Gray. And it has to be in a small market. We saw it with the Yankees. Sonny Gray cannot pitch in a big market. Don't touch him if you're the Mets. Don't touch him if you're the Angels. If you're a small market team in need of a starter, yeah, go after Sonny Gray. But not if you are in a big market. All in all, I don't hate the idea of the Reds trading Sonny Gray. If you can get equal value coming back, I have no problem with it. You can get equal value for Sonny Gray. He's a very good pitcher in a small market, but he's not great. If you're Bob Castellini, you're looking for ways to stay competitive without going overly crazy in free agency. I don't mind that. Trading Gray is a good way to do that. You'll have a high payroll, no one can call you cheap, and you won't be a laughingstock. You probably won't make the playoffs, but you'll play meaningful games in September. It's not the worst thing in the world to trade Gray. It's really not. Rosenthal also said that the Astros are floating Carlos Correa's name in trade talks. Part of that would entail them signing DJ LeMahieu. So what that probably means is LeMahieu goes to third, and then Bregman slides over to short. So from third to first, it would be LeMahieu, Bregman, Altuve, and Gurriel. It's not the craziest idea in the world to do that. For starters, you would weaken one of your biggest rivals and a team that you're going to have to go through if you're going to win the pennant. The Yankees signed Gerrit Cole away from you, so you respond by signing DJ LeMahieu away from them. That's not a terrible move. And you can trade Correa for a couple outfielders. The Astros have a big hole right now in their outfield. Besides Kyle Tucker, they have no one. Literally no one. Springer, Brantley, and Reddick are all free agents. So it's kind of funny. The Yankees have a surplus of outfielders. If the Astros sign LeMahieu, they're going to have a big hole in the middle of their infield. Wouldn't you rather trade from your surplus than trade prospects? Frazier and Andujar for Correa. Who says no? It makes sense for both sides. It really does. Now, obviously, you want LeMahieu back if you're the Yankees, but if LeMahieu signs with the Astros, and you have an opportunity to get Carlos Correa, and all you have to do is deal from your surplus and give up a couple backup outfielders, you do it. Correa becomes your shortstop, Torres slides over to second. I mean, the thing is, if the Yankees lose LeMahieu, forget to the Astros, any team, the Mets, the Red Sox, whoever, the best middle infielders available in free agency are Didi Gregorius and Andrelton Simmons. None of those guys move the needle for me. I like Gregorius a lot, but the Yankees just let him walk last offseason. Now you're going to bring him back? That doesn't work for me. I mean, Simmons hits for a good average and he has a great glove, but he's no LeMahieu. Correa, at least, is comparable to LeMahieu. I mean, if the Astros don't bring in LeMahieu, they're probably not going to trade Correa. But it is interesting to think about. It makes more sense than you think. But ultimately, I don't think Correa's going anywhere. I don't think LeMahieu's going anywhere. I do think the Astros are going to bring back one of Springer, Brantley, and Reddick. And there were rumors earlier in the offseason that said they were going to bring in Jackie Bradley Jr. Also, Brantley supposedly wants to come back to the Astros. So Brantley, Bradley, and Tucker could be your outfield. You can live with that. That's perfectly fine. I think that's the route the Astros go. Like I said, I think Correa's going to stay with the Astros, and LeMahieu's going to go back to the Yankees. Moving on now to the Reds, trading Robert Stevenson and Jamison Hanna to the Rockies for Jeff Hoffman and Case Williams. This is an interesting trade. You've got a couple change of scenery candidates in Stevenson and Hoffman. Stevenson was once viewed as a future ace for the Reds. Like he was going to be the next Don Gullett or Jack Billingham, whoever you want to say. But it didn't work out. He moved over to the bullpen in 2019 and pitched well. Went 3-2 with a 3.76 ERA. But last year, in 10 games coming out of the pen, he was atrocious. In 10 innings, he gave up 11 hits, 11 earned runs, and 8 home runs. Jeff Hoffman, meanwhile, is actually an interesting name. He was the centerpiece of the Troy Tulowitzki trade. The Rockies thought they were getting an ace in Hoffman, a guy who had Tommy John surgery when he was at East Carolina University, but was still picked 9th overall. He had a ton of talent. The Blue Jays and Rockies weren't scared off by the Tommy John surgery. They both had him rated very highly. I was more skeptical about him. The injury scared the ever-loving mercy out of me. And Hoffman just hasn't worked out. Last year he went 2-1 with a 9.28 ERA. In his career he's 10-16 with a 6.4 ERA. It's possible that him going to a more pitcher-friendly ballpark in Cincinnati helps him, but I'm skeptical. Case Williams, I don't know too much about him. He was picked in the 4th round of this past MLB draft. He's a righty pitcher. I'm sure he's happy that he's not going to call Coors Field his home. But truthfully, I don't know too much about him. I do know something about Jamison Hanna, though. This guy is really athletic, has really good speed, has a solid bat. He has no power. He's a solid fielder. But that's about it. He's a guy who will give you solid defense in the majors. Will probably hit 260, steal 20 bags. That's not nothing. I like Jamison Hanna. I think he can be something. I like Hanna and Stevenson a lot more than I like Hoffman and Williams. There's no question about that in my mind. I think it's much more likely that Hanna and Stevenson make an impact for the Rockies than Hoffman and Williams make an impact for the Reds. The Rockies easily win this trade. Alright, now I'll give you some NFL Valk talk. And I'm going to preview the 2 Thanksgiving games. Ravens-Steelers has been postponed to Sunday because the Ravens are dealing with a COVID outbreak. Better safe than sorry. They can't flex anything earlier. It's unfair to the 2 other teams. So we only have 2 NFL games tomorrow. The NFL does own Thanksgiving, although it's kind of funny. You usually only end up with 1 good game, and that's the night game. So in a normal year, when you're over with your family, and you're sick and tired of them, you have a choice. You either suck it up, or you watch lousy football. By the time the 1 good game is on, it's 8:30, you're already back at your own house. So of all the years to not have great Thanksgiving games, I guess this would be the year because you're not with extended family unless you're doing something with Zoom or FaceTime, whatever. Zoom is actually comping their services for Thanksgiving. I don't have it in front of me, but if you don't have the paid Zoom account, that's okay. You can still do a big thing for Thanksgiving over Zoom. So, that's a good job by them. The first game on the docket is Texans-Lions. These are actually 2 similar teams. All offense, no defense. The Texans have Deshaun Watson. David Johnson isn't awful. He's not great, but he's not terrible. Duke Johnson has disappointed, though. I'll say that. If the Texans had a good backup running back, that would change a lot of things for them. They wouldn't have to use Johnson as much, and he'd probably be more effective. Now, it's kind of funny. Obviously, the Texans traded DeAndre Hopkins. And that was a terrible trade. Okay, I'm not making any excuses for that trade. But the Texans do have some solid pass catchers. Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks, Kenny Stills, maybe. He's questionable for this game. Darren Fells, Jordan Akins. Yes, they don't have that true number 1. But they do have a really good group of pass catchers. Their offensive line has struggled, though. Outside of Laramie Tunsil, they don't have any good offensive linemen. Nick Martin, Senio Calamete, Zach Fulton, Titus Howard, they all stink. Watson's running for his life on every play. The guy's been sacked 26 times. I mean, I'll tell you, he looks like David Carr out there. Running for his life behind a garbage offensive line. And like I said, the defense is complete garbage. Outside of J.J. Watt and Bradley Roby, there's really no one there that scares me. The safeties are solid. Justin Reed, Lonnie Johnson, and Eric Murray aren't bad players, but they're not great. This is going to be a shootout. Make no mistake about it. Like I said, the Lions are a very similar team. They have Matthew Stafford. They don't have the greatest running game in the world. Adrian Peterson isn't getting any younger. DeAndre Swift is questionable. He's going to be a very special player. But like I said, he's questionable. And Kerryon Johnson has been pushed to the wayside. Stafford does have some talented pass catchers. Marvin Jones, Kenny Golladay, who's questionable. Danny Amendola, who's questionable. TJ Hawkinson, who's one of the best young tight ends in the NFL, a lot better than I thought he'd be coming out of Iowa. Assuming everyone plays, the Lions' offense is stacked. Their offensive line is solid. Taylor Decker, Jonah Jackson, Frank Ragnow, Halapoulivaati Vaitai, and Tyrell Crosby are all solid players. That's the big difference with these two teams. The offensive line. And the Lions do have some players that can take advantage of that. They have Jared Davis. They have Jamie Collins. They have Reggie Ragland, who's questionable, but I think he's going to play. They have Romeo Okwara. The thing is, though, their secondary is just putrid. Besides Duron Harmon, they have no one. Ultimately, though, it's in Detroit. I think the Lions are the more well-rounded team. Give me the Lions. Moving on now to Washington versus the Cowboys. Alex Smith versus Andy Dalton. 5 years ago, this would have been a solid quarterback matchup. Now, not so much. I mean, I'll say this. Andy Dalton, coming back from the coronavirus on Sunday, threw 3 touchdowns. That's pretty good. And this is a really important game. The Eagles are on top of the NFC East with a 3-6-1 record. Everyone else in that division is tied. They're all 3-7. They're all a half game behind the Eagles. This is a very important game. Unfortunately for Washington, you just don't want Alex Smith as your quarterback for this game. It was a great story, him coming back from that devastating injury, but he hasn't been good. Antonio Gibson coming back is going to help Smith a lot. I like Gibson a ton. I think he's going to be a really, really special player. Same thing with Terry McLaurin. You may have the second comings of John Riggins and Art Monk on your hands. But at the end of the day, that doesn't mean much unless you have a quarterback. They have a good offensive line. Morgan Moses, Wes Schweitzer, Chase Roulier, Brandon Scherf, and Cornelius Lucas are all having good seasons. They've just been struggling at quarterback. Dwayne Haskins didn't take the sophomore jump that you wanted him to. Kyle Allen didn't look awful, but he got hurt. I mean, obvious statement of the year coming up, but that's what's holding Washington back, their quarterback play. They have a really good defense. Ron Rivera's done a great job with that. I'll rapid fire through some of the names. Tim Settle, Jonathan Allen, Ronald Darby, Chase Young, who's having a great rookie season, Kendall Fuller, Montez Sweat, Daron Payne, Kevin Pierre-Louis. They're talented players. They really are. But at the end of the day, you can't expect to win 14-7 games every week. Sometimes you need to put up 20-30 points. As for the Cowboys, their offense is fine. Dalton came back and looked really good. Give him a chance to prove that he can quarterback you guys to a crazy division title. Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard are an incredible 1-2 punch. Elliott does have a case of the butterfingers, but I still love Ezekiel Elliott. He has a ton of talent. We all know that. The Cowboys fans saying that they should move on from Zeke are crazy. The three-headed monster at wide receiver, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup are incredible. Dalton Schultz is a really good tight end. The offensive line has struggled, though. We think about the Cowboys having this great offensive line. They really don't. Besides the guards, Zach Martin and Connor Williams, no one really scares me there. Connor McGovern hasn't had a great season. Tyron Smith is hurt. Joe Looney hasn't had a great season. Brandon Knight isn't that good. Cam Irving has done nothing like I said he would. That's what's hurting Zeke. He's not getting the production from his offensive line that he's used to. And as we all know, the defense is terrible besides DeMarcus Lawrence. They really don't have anyone who scares you. Aldon Smith and Xavier Woods are having good seasons, but that's about it. Make no mistake about it, Mike Nolan is gone at the end of this season. All in all, I don't think this game is going to be a romp like it was a month ago. But I do think Washington has the guys necessary to take advantage of this putrid Cowboys defense. I expect Gibson to get a lot of run. McLaurin's going to have a great game. And I don't think the Cowboys are going to be able to answer it. Give me Washington. Alright, now it's time for me to make my 3 NFL picks. I like the Browns minus 6.5 over the Jaguars. I've been picking the Browns a lot recently, but this matchup is just too juicy for me to not pick. The Jaguars are starting Mike Glennon. There's no way that the Jaguars are going to lose by less than a touchdown and an extra point. I understand the Browns haven't been great their past couple games, but I will say the weather in the past couple games has been really bad. Mayfield has struggled in that weather. That's reasonable. I can accept that. No excuses, though, in Jacksonville. I think it's supposed to be gorgeous. Give me the Browns minus 6.5. And give me the Cardinals minus 2 over the Patriots. I don't care that the Patriots are home. A 2-point spread is ridiculous. The Cardinals are going to win by at least a field goal. Hell, this spread could be minus 7. And I may still pick the Cardinals. The Cardinals, I think, are going to win by double digits. The Patriots aren't good. The dynasty is dead. The Cardinals are hitting on all cylinders right now. I think this is going to be an easy win for them. Give me the Cardinals minus 2. And for my upset, I like the Jets plus 7. I really do. I think Tua's confidence is going to be shattered by being benched. The Dolphins' rushing game is non-existent. The Jets' wide receivers are all healthy. It's at MetLife, so no fans. I think the Jets can cover the spread. I definitely don't think they're going to get shut out. I think this is going to be a competitive game. I think the Dolphins are going to win, but I think they're going to win by less than 7 points. Give me the Jets plus 7. So my picks are Browns minus 6.5, Cardinals minus 2, and Jets plus 7. Alright, now I'll give you some college football Valk talk. There are 3 games this week that feature 2 ranked teams going at it. The first one is ISU versus Texas. This is a really good ISU team. Matt Campbell is getting NFL head coaching buzz. I'll be honest with you. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I think there are better candidates out there, but I don't hate it. Campbell's done a great job with this ISU team. Brock Purdy's having a really good season, completed over 63% of his passes, 13 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He can kill you with his legs also. But the star on ISU's offense is their running back, Breece Hall. One of the best running backs in the nation. Already has over 1,100 rushing yards. He has 15 touchdowns. He's a beast. There's no other word for it. He's a beast. Xavier Hutchinson is a talented wide receiver. Charlie Kohler is a talented tight end. They're there when Purdy needs them, but more than anything, ISU's offense is just give the ball to Hall. See, I'm a poet and I don't even know it. ISU does have some really talented defensive players also. Will McDonald, Jaquan Bailey, Ayoma Uzurike, I'm sure I butchered that name, and Mike Rose. That name I know I didn't butcher. They're all incredibly talented defensive players. Texas is going to have their hands full in this one, but they have the quarterback to get him through it. I like Sam Ehlinger. I don't like his completion percentage, but 22 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. He's doing something right. Very good in the red zone. Makes a lot of smart decisions. Can kill you with his legs. He has 7 rushing touchdowns also. the Texas offense really doesn't have any great playmakers besides Ellinger. He's doing this all by himself. And you gotta give him credit for having the Longhorns 5-2. The Longhorns have the 15th best offense in the nation in terms of points per game. Ellinger could have a really long NFL career. Defensively, Texas doesn't have any superstars. Joseph Osai is a very talented pass rusher, but that's about it. I don't think Texas can match the talent that the Cyclones have. If anyone can get Texas through this game, it is Ellinger. He has the temperament to do it, and he can convert on the red zone opportunities that he may have. And that's what Texas is going to need to do. They need to convert on their opportunities. Don't squander anything. But ultimately, I think ISU has it. Moving on now to Notre Dame versus North Carolina. Notre Dame was ranked second in the first CFP ranking. I have no complaints with that. I mean, they're a very talented team. Brian Kelly has done a fantastic job with them. They're very well-rounded. Ian Book is having a really good season. So is their running back, Kyron Williams. Their star wide receiver, Javon McKinley. He hasn't caught any touchdowns, which I don't like. But a lot of that is opposing defenses keying in on him when the Fighting Irish get in the red zone. So Book is forced to pivot to guys like Ben Skowronek, Avery Davis, and Michael Mayer. Defensively, Notre Dame has a ton of talent. Adedokunbo Ogundeji's really good. So is Isaiah Foskey, Dalen Hayes, Sean Crawford, Kurt Hinish, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and Ovie Oghoufo are all really talented players. I'm sure I butchered some of those names, but you get my point. This is a stacked Notre Dame team. I don't like Notre Dame. They're usually perennially overrated, but not this year. They're the real deal this year. They'll be going up against a stacked UNC offense. I like Sam Howell a lot. I do think he's going to have a long future in the NFL. And when I say that, I'm not saying that as a starter, but as a backup, I think he can be something. Javonte Williams and Michael Carter are probably the best 1-2 punch in the nation at running back. Diami Brown and Daz Newsome are incredibly talented wide receivers. Defensively, that's where Notre Dame falls off. They don't have a good secondary. They have a good pass rush. They have 8 guys with at least 2 sacks. Chaz Surratt and the Foxes are who you need to key in on. But their secondary isn't that good. I think Notre Dame is going to make a game of this. I don't think it's going to be a romp. But I do think Notre Dame has it. The last game to talk about is the Iron Bowl. Auburn versus Alabama. Nick Saban does have the coronavirus, so he won't be able to coach this game. And Alabama's gonna suffer because of that. This is a very talented Tigers defense. They don't have a great quarterback. Bo Nix isn't anything special. They have some solid skill position players, Tank Bigsby, Seth Williams, and Anthony Schwartz. But their real skill is defense. You've got to account for a ton of guys. Colby Wooden, Jacoby McLean, Owen Papo, Derek Hall, Daquan Newkirk, Roger McCreary, Smoke Monday, Jordan Peters, and Nehemiah Pritchett. But ultimately, I just don't see how they're going to be able to stop the freight train that is the Crimson Tide offense. First up, I think they're going to be motivated to play for Saban. Mac Jones is getting Heisman Trophy buzz. The guy's completed over 77% of his passes and has 18 touchdowns to just 3 interceptions. I can see why. The Alabama offense is really good. Najee Harris, Devontae Smith, and John Mechie. Jalen Waddle obviously out for the season. That's a big loss. But Alabama has the depth to compensate for that. They have a very well-rounded defense. It's coached very well. Look, we're not going to see a shootout here. I think both teams are going to score under 30 points. But Auburn doesn't have the talent to match Alabama. Give me the Crimson Tide. Obviously, no show tomorrow and no show Friday, Thanksgiving and Black Friday. I'll be back on Sunday for the Instant Jets recap. After that, it's a regular schedule for the Jacob Valk Show. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. Hope you spend it with people who care about you. Even if you're doing it virtually, be thankful that you're able to spend time with your loved ones. Hope you eat some good turkey. Hope you eat some good side dishes, stuffing, sweet potatoes, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce that comes out of a can. That's the only good cranberry sauce there is. Ocean Spray cranberry sauce. That's it. And obviously, watch some good football. I do think we'll get competitive games. Maybe not the greatest games ever played, but I think they will be competitive games. Until next time, I am Jacob Valk saying, once a man begins managing, his age should be calculated like a dog's. 1 year equals 7 human years.